I do have an announcement to precede this, and that is we're working on a ball field on West Palouse River Drive. Plans? I just thought I'd bring that to your attention tonight before we got going on this. That's a joke. I'm sorry. 8 years now. Okay.
Slow.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you. And tonight we're asking for council direction on whether to go forward with a general obligation bond in May for the development of the ball field project on West Palouse River Drive. Recent discussions indicate that the bond election is not favored at this time because of the current economic conditions, and that a future date might be more appropriate. And I have a little slide presentation for you. Just most of this is just review, but it's short, just to remind you of where we've been. This is the project rendering with the ball fields and parking, and this was the rendering, the concept design that was approved by council. And that button didn't work. Excuse me. The other gizmo's gone. There it is. Never mind. We're good. Okay. And the project cost breakdown, we had this in 6 elements, anywhere from road improvements, the addition of a road, the ball fields, and a park project itself. The cost, with the cost of the bond election fee, was $7.85 million. And at this point, the last time we brought this before you, there was still the question of whether or not the effluent portion of this project could be paid for through the sewer fund. And JUB Engineering has since completed an assessment study for the Phase 5 improvements to the wastewater treatment plant, and they gave a presentation at the last Public Works Committee meeting, and the answer is very complicated, and even though we have the study completed, there's just a lot of consideration that still needs to be done in order for the council to make a good decision on whether or not to go that route. With that in mind, we still have that question. The project doesn't change any other than just that question. But we are basically at deadline to go to this bond. We're actually a few days late at this point, but we're recommending or we're requesting direction on that. And the options that we really have is to go ahead and prepare the documents for this May's bond election, or postpone this project. And for a bond election in the future, and along with the, taking into consideration the Parks and Recreation needs that we will present in our comprehensive plan, and where it is prioritized by the City Council, and a few co-options with that, and that's to continue our discussions with the Moscow School District for possibly developing the Joseph Street Field property, and or to continue investigating other ball field opportunities that might be out there that we haven't already. I would like to qualify that based on some comments that were made at the last meeting, that we feel that we've exhausted most of those opportunities. It just, as time goes, sometimes opportunities reemerge and reprioritize. So, and we also feel that we've worked with just about any entity that could possibly be worked with, and would continue to do that. And of course, the last option, if you have something else you'd rather us do, that's another option as well.
Thank you, Dwight. Yeah. Wayne, this was reviewed by the Public Works Finance Committee.
It was, and like Dwight says, this has been going on for 8 years now, and we just can't seem to get past this huge price tag. We continue to look at things like our Phase 5 wastewater treatment plant, which has to do with the cooling of the water and different options. The last options, in fact, we had this report, I think, at that same committee meeting. One of the options, of course, is still irrigating the field, but it's only 1 out of 5 options, and it's also not cheap. So we decided that our recommendation from the committee was probably something relative around a number 2, was to postpone it. We certainly don't want to do it in May, and whether we want to do it in the fall, it just depends upon what kind of things fall into place. We like the idea of maybe working with the school district towards development of the Joseph Street field property, if that's a possibility. As Dwight said, there may be some other options that come up. You know, this is not to say that we want to put the ball fields completely out and forget about it entirely. We own the property. It certainly doesn't make much sense to sell the property because I don't know that it's worth a whole lot. It's a parkland now. And, you know, someday it may come back. We have the plans. We have the possibility. It may be one of these days, and maybe one of these days soon. But I don't think we want to spend a lot of time focusing on this right now when we can perhaps focus towards some other options.
Okay, does anybody have questions for Dwight? Walter?
No, ma'am.
No.
No
Anybody
questions for Dwight, but I do have a comment,
Okay, go ahead.
if I may.
Sure.
I agree with Wayne. I believe I'm the one that brought this up at the goal setting, that at a Transportation Commission meeting 8 years ago, at the first time this was brought to transportation, Philip Cook made the observation that the problem with the proposed ball field's location was its location, that a large number of the children of Moscow live on the opposite corner of town, and that there was no good way to get them through town and across town and out Palouse River Drive. And the $7.8 million price tag on this project reflects that, because without having you go back to the slide, a large part of that $7.8 million is infrastructure just to get there, and to build a bridge to an adjacent property that, according to what we would do to a developer developing this property, would make him do. I don't think it's practical for the city of Moscow to just build ball fields on the Palouse River Drive property and not improve the street, build sidewalks, build bike lanes, build street lights, and all the other things that we need to make it safe to get children, their parents, carpooling, and all that stuff out there. I just don't think that that property in the foreseeable future has a future as a ball field. I do believe we need ball fields in the city of Moscow. I have felt that ever since I first heard them discussed. And we need to do something about it in a fashion that the city is willing to pay for and can afford. I don't think the Palouse River ball fields are that project. So at the risk of the mayor getting upset, I'm going to put forth a motion and see if I can get a second. That number one, we do not move the Palouse River Drive ball fields forward. And I didn't say postpone, I said do not move it forward. And number two, that we have discussions with the Moscow School District on development possibilities of the Joseph Street field property, and investigate other ball field development opportunities at locations other than the West Palouse River Drive ball fields location as presented by Dwight tonight.
Second.
And Stephanie, I can give you the text of that if you have any
If
trouble.
Walter's motion and Tim's second, is there discussion of that before voting?
Yes, ma'am.
Dan?
I would encourage the patrons of the Moscow School District to talk to your school board members and talk to the superintendent, because I think they have a perceived fear of entering into some sort of development, and I think if the patrons of the district move this forward to them, I think that will, if there's interest shown and support for it, I think that the school district would be more amenable to moving forward with a joint project with the city of Moscow on that property. And it's like Walter said, you're not putting something on the opposite corner of town from where all the kids are. You're putting it where the kids are. I mean, that's where the residential area of town is mostly, is that eastern side of town. So again, I encourage the patrons of the school district to talk to your school board members, talk to the superintendent, show your support for some sort of project on that property.
Tom?
I was just going to say that I believe that the motion on the table allows us an opportunity to work on existing potential fields that are close into the town, that are closer to residential areas in Moscow, and allow us to take care of those, what I believe to be low-hanging fruit first, perhaps even less expensive fruit, and take care of those things. I think that sometime in the future, the proposed Palouse River ball fields probably will be developed as parkland and ball fields, but I think it makes more sense for us to move forward on some of these other places first, so I intend to support this effort.
And at the risk of behaving like a seventh council member, Walter, I'm not tweaked at this. Actually, I think the Palouse River Drive site is a fantastic property with great potential for future public use, and that may involve play fields, ball fields. It may involve a naturalized area, an educational facility. Its proximity to the Jeff and Becky Martin Community Wellness Center, to the University of Idaho's Arboretum, to the anticipated future growth, residential and commercial growth in that vicinity, bodes very well for its future in the more distant future than perhaps now. I'm pleased to see you didn't slam the door on that possibility with your motion. So, no, it didn't upset the mayor. Thank you. Wayne, you have your hand up?
I would just say I'll support Walter's motion. I just don't want it to go out that the ball fields are just gone completely. That it's not dead. It's just asleep for a while. And as the mayor said, one day this property will be developed. Whether it's ball fields, that'll be something to be determined down the road.
Dwight, you wanted to respond to that?
Well, basically, just in general with where we're going, I'm just so, I mean, we'll keep looking and all of that, but just, I mean, we didn't go into this blindly to begin with. All of these low-hanging fruits were already looked at, and I promise you that you will have many of the same issues come up when we get to them, other than Joseph Street. That was always our first option, and it was just, the door was just always closed, and we were unable to open it. Seems that that's cracked a little bit now, and a little more possibility, but just about anywhere else on the edge of town is going to have the same infrastructure issues, not to mention the less availability of effluent if it was the stand of the councils not to use city water. There's a lot of issues, and we'll bring all that forward when we get to whatever point we do.
Sure. Sue?
I'm concerned about not having a date somewhere in the future where we actually discuss this possibility again. My original part of this that I agreed to, because at the administrative meeting, I mean at the Public Works Finance meeting, I wanted to postpone it and then give a date certain, 2 years, 3 years, whatever, just a date certain that this comes back, so that even if it's only 10, if it's 10 or 15 years and all of us are off the council,
You won't be.
Dwight, he'll be dead. Dwight,
I'll give up by that point.
you know, Dwight will be retired, and I don't want someone to forget that all this work went into it. And so I could eliminate the part about bringing the project before a bond election, but I would like to somehow, if there's a way we could amend your motion to make sure that this comes up for discussion in, say, 2 years.
You want to put forward a
be
friendly
reviewed?
amendment, Sue?
Well, I'm trying to figure out a way to.
I will not agree to an amendment. I would encourage you to bring it up. You're going to be on council in 2 years, bring it up.
I don't think it's going to go away.
Yeah, I don't think it's going to go away.
With knowing the Parks and Rec Commission, this isn't going to go away.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, further discussion. Tim?
First of all, Dwight, the Parks and Rec Commission has put in unbelievable number of hours and effort toward something that everyone on this council campaigned for, supported, when we ran for elected office. It's not as though this council doesn't believe in those ball fields and doesn't believe in you and doesn't believe in Parks and Rec. I think what the motion says and what I seconded, the fact that right now it just seems uneconomically feasible to put a bond forward to the voters. So I don't think this council is saying, I don't think the motioner nor the seconder are saying that Parks and Rec didn't do a fabulous job at putting a project together. Quite the contrary, did a fabulous job. Can't afford the darn thing right now.
I appreciate that. I never took it any other way. Thank
Tom,
you.
did I see your hand up?
Yeah, I had a thought from memories of when I was a kid, and I was not much of a baseball player. My parents bought me a vinyl glove that stung every time I caught a ball. It was not much fun. But whenever we wanted to play ball, we would just go out, and it didn't matter if it was football or baseball or whatever, soccer. We didn't really play. Who knew what soccer was back when I was a kid? But we didn't. All we cared about was if the grass was mowed. We didn't care if it was watered or anything. We just flat and mowed was good enough, and we made it work. And I feel like there are enough flat spaces that the city owns, like Lola Clyde Park, that if we just kept it like, at least not knee high, we probably could see kids playing on it. Maybe not. I don't know. Maybe it won't be the fun, organized sports stuff, but I feel like if we just left a backstop out at Lola Clyde Park and forgot about it and mowed it, I bet we'd have kids playing there this summer. And maybe not, but it would be a fun experiment, and it would be cheap, and we'd have a ball field. And it wouldn't be any of these famous names that you showed us, those baseball players that used to play baseball and made money and stuff like that. But it would be a place where kids could play. And I just would love to see us try that. And maybe we can't do it for a legal reason, but I think it would be great if we could at least make those spaces functional in the short term.
Wayne?
One quick comment. Tom's right, but he's talking about what we used to call sandlot baseball, sandlot football. It's unorganized, and of course the idea behind the ballparks was more space for organized athletics, league, soccer, baseball, flag football possibly, but 7.8 million is just, Tim's right. We all campaigned. That was part of our campaign, was that we supported that ballpark, and we still do. But that was 4 years ago, and 4 years ago, we didn't know it was $7.85 million. But we did get to the point where we're at. It's not going to go away. We just cannot do it right now. So let's do what we can do.
Any other discussion? Walter, would you repeat your motion, please? You have it in writing.
You just want to see if I can do it, don't you?
No, you have it in writing, don't you?
I do?
Yeah.
1, do not move the Palouse River Drive ball fields forward. And 2, have discussions with the Moscow School District on development possibilities of the Joseph Street Field property and investigate other ball field development opportunities at locations other than the West Palouse River Drive ball fields, as presented tonight by Dwight Curtis.
Okay. And that was made, the motion was made by Walter and seconded by Tim, and we'll start the roll call vote with you, Tim.
Aye.
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 And I.
That motion carries. Dwight, thank you. Please extend the council's and my appreciation to all the folks who worked so hard. I know we had a series of public meetings about it, some pretty energetic discussions about it, and as you heard tonight, it's not going to evaporate from the mind anyway. Walter?
And to echo the mayor, and I forget now who on the other end, Tim said to you earlier, nothing's taken from your time, your effort, your staff, the citizens, the people of Moscow that worked on the Palouse River Drive ball fields. There's nothing in the motion I made that does that. This is a process. It's you do what you can as you're directed. It's just the economics of it doesn't work at this point in time. So thank you for all you've done.
Thanks.
Now put as much effort into finding us a place we can have some ball fields.
So Dwight, do you have sufficient
I need to work on a
direction
nice
to
fire
know what
somewhere.
Yes.
to do? Okay.
Yes.